Hi there. In this session, we'll be talking about a scenario where you have a block of code which is going to be repeated for n number of times. Let's assume you're doing an automation for an e-commerce site, and what you have is different, let's say you're searching something on that e-commerce site, and the search results that you're getting are blocks of different information. For example, you're searching a mobile on any e-commerce site and you get different search results, and what you do want to do is you fetch the number of items present on that search result, and you want to fetch all the individual items from there. So ideally what you want is you want a block of code to be executed for n number of times, and to do that a simple implementation that you do is implementing a loop. So in this session, we are going to look at how to write loops. Let's get started. So we'll be talking about loops. Loops is nothing else but iteration of a block of code. Now that can be for a for a let's say specific count. For example, uh, you want to execute. Let's say you want to display the numbers 1 to 10. So simple syntax for a loop is, let me write it in comment. There's a common loop which is used across multiple programming languages, that is a for loop, right? And the simple syntax in Java is the variable which is initialized with a minimum value or a maximum value. When I say minimum, then the value would increment. We'll see a couple of examples which will give you a very clear picture. Right, so there will be a for, then in round brackets there are different I would say sections which you need to take care of. The first one is a variable which is initialized with a minimum or a maximum value. Then we have a semicolon, and the second section which has a condition of when to break the loop, when should you exit that loop. Then again semicolon, and the third part, incrementing or decrementing the value of the variable that we initialized as first parameter. So if we have a minimum value, we want to reach to a maximum value here and break the loop. So we need to increment it by a certain value. It can be by 1, it can be by 2. We'll see a couple of examples there. And then closing the round bracket. So here is the start bracket, here is the end bracket, and then if we have multiple lines of code to be executed, we have curly brackets, right? So this we have curly brackets, and then we have the business logic here, right? So let's write a simple loop. So I'll write for integer I is equal to 0. See, a variable which is initialized with a minimum value. Right now I am initiating it with a minimum value. Then a semicolon. So I'll write a semicolon here. Then a condition on when to break the loop. So I want to break the loop when the value of I is 10, which means I want to continue till the value of I is less than 10, less than or equal to 10. And then again semicolon, incrementing or decrementing the variable, right? So that means I is equal to I plus 1. And then the business logic. I'm not implementing any big logic here. I'll just display the value of I. Sys out, and I'll write value of I is, and I'll concatenate it with this particular message. I'm concatenating this message using a plus sign here, right? So how does this work? How does a loop work? Let's execute first and see how it goes, right? So from 0 till the value 10. So let's see how it goes. So the loop, how does the loop work? So the value of I is initiated by 0. So when a loop starts, when the loop execution starts, the first thing that it does is it initiates the value of the variable. So first thing that happens here is initiating the value of the variable. And in this condition, we have I is equal to 0. That's what we did. So this is step 1. Then step 2. Step 2 is checking the condition. It does not directly go in. It will go in only if this condition is okay, which means the value of I is less than equal to 10, which is right. The value of I is less than equal to 10. Currently, if you see, the value of I is 0, which means it is okay. And what it will do is it will go in this particular condition and display the value of I, which is 0. And that's what we saw on the console window here. So third step. So here it goes, step 3. Um, Getting in the code block if the condition is true, else it won't go in. It will just escape, it will just go out of the loop. It won't go in if the condition is false. We'll see that condition as well. Else it will exit the loop. So step 4. Step 4, this part, incrementing or decrementing, whatever is there. Right now we have incremented its value. So what happens here is the value of I is added with a value 1, which means 0 plus 1 is 1. Variable. Step 5. Step 5 will be go to step 2 and repeat. So again, after this value is updated or incremented, it will check the condition then. It will check the condition. And this happens till this condition is not false. So unless this condition is true, it will continue going to step 2, 3 and 4. And that is what we see. The value of I is equal to 10. So it displayed the value of I as 10 on the console window. See. Then it incremented. See, it displayed here. Then incremented to 11. Then checked the condition, which was false, and then it exited the loop. This is how a simple for loop works. Now let's look at an example where we decrement a value. For integer, let's say j is equal to, when we want to decrement a value, we want to put a max value from where we want to start. So for example, I'll start from 20. J is less than, or sorry, reverse, greater than or equal to 1, and j is equal to j minus 1. So let's write down the value of j on the console. Sys out value of j is, and plus j. So let's see how it goes. Oh, sorry, not I, here it is j. And if I execute, so it starts from, yeah, see the value of j starts from 20 and it decrements by 1. See, until 1, right? That's how it executes. Now this This loop, same loop, you can write it in a this way. For integer k is equal to, let's say, either of them, increment or decrement. I'm just showing you an alternative. K is equal to 0, k is less than 10, and sorry, yeah, k is less than 10, and k plus plus. So instead of writing I is equal to I plus 1, you can write I plus plus, and similarly k plus plus. Right, so k plus plus works similarly. It increments the value and assigns it to that variable. So all of them is done using this just k plus plus, incrementing and assigning, self assignment and self increment. Sys out, and here I write value of k is plus k. Let's execute. Now what happens is it displays still value 9. Why? Because here I have not put equal to sign. Here we had the equal to sign. So be very cautious on what value you are initiating it with and what is the condition you are putting it here. Similarly, one more example. For integer t is equal to 1, t less than equal to 20, and t is equal to t plus 2. You can do plus 2 also. I mean, not only plus 2, you can put any incremental value. Sys out value of t is, right? So if you see, starts from 1 and keeps adding 2, 2, 2. See, that's how it goes, right? So it's very important that the value you initiate, the condition you keep, and the value incremented or decremented. This is very important when you implement a loop. Now, this simple loop, it has a variable. What happens if I write sys out value of t is t? What happens if I write it outside this loop? See, I get this error here. It says it is not able to find that variable, but I have declared it here, right? So why is it not able to find this variable? So it's very important to understand the scope of this variable. If I am writing the initiation code here within this for loop, which means the scope of this variable is only limited to this particular loop. Outside this loop, it is not able, we won't be able to use it. If I want to use it for any reasons, if I want to use it, what I can do is I can write integer t here, and this initiation I can just remove. I can just declare it outside, and initiation I can write it here, and then I'll be able to use it outside. And now if I execute, the value of t outside loop is 22, 21. So when did this loop end? While it was less than, it continued till it was less than or equal to 20, which means till the value 19 it was inside the loop. It still had the incremented value which it displayed outside. So at times you might need this approach where you want to use a variable that is used within the loop. You want to use it outside the loop. So the scope of a variable is also very much important. Where you are declaring it is very important. With what value you are initiating it, with what condition you are adding, with what value you are incrementing or decrementing it is very much important, right? So this is one way of using, this is another way of using a loop. How about this? If I write the same loop for within round brackets, I'll give these two semicolons and then the code block. So what I want is, I want integer y is equal to 0 semicolon. So this is done, which is a part of the first parameter here. Then I can give a condition here, y is less than or equal to 10. And I can also give this part here, y plus plus. Sys out value of y is. So if I execute it, yes, it will still be there. Even I can move this guy, let's say plus plus. So I'll remove it from here and here I'll write y plus plus. Now let's see. Now the output here is 0 to 10. 0 to 10. Now if I execute, the output is still 0 to 10. No change in the output. So whether I put it here or here, but I need to make sure that I am writing it at the right location. If I write it before displaying it, the entire purpose will be different. See, it is displaying 0 to 10. Let's see now what it displays. It will start from 1 to 11. Why? Because it has already incremented and displayed the value. So where you are writing this increment value is also important, right? Similar this condition. If I don't write it here, I can remove it from here, and what I can do is that if y is less than or equal to 10, then only do this, then only do this, which means this would be in the code block. If this does not match, that is else, then break the loop. I can use a break statement to break the loop. So what happens is value of y is 0, it would come here, it is 0, it will display the value 0, increment it to 1 and continue the loop. Till when? Till the value till this condition is true. So now if I execute 0 to 10. So it is the same loop that we used earlier. The same way, equal to, the only difference. Why am I showing you this? Because at times you might want to break the loop based on some condition. It can be this or it can be some other condition. Or it can be a combination of this and some other condition. Right? So breaking the loop or writing the loop in a different manner, this can be one such alternatives. Okay, so this is all about a for loop. Incrementing the value, decrementing the value, everything can be done in the same manner. All that matters is the syntax. This two semicolons should be there. Now, the other loop that we have. This was all for loop. Now we have a loop, while loop. It is equivalent to what we did here. And the simple syntax is while and a condition. And then the braces, the curly brackets, where you write the business logic. The business logic, right? So let's write a simple while loop. So while, let's say, h is less than equal to 20, but this h needs to be initiated. If I just write it this way, it will shout. It does not find the variable, it's not declared, right? So we need to write integer h is equal to 0, and now I need to write sys out value of h is h. If I don't write an incremental value, the value of h will remain the same and it will go in an infinite loop, right? It will go in an infinite loop. Let's try it out. If I execute, it just goes in an infinite loop. See, You'll just have to terminate the execution, right? This is an infinite loop. So what we have to do is we have to add h plus plus. So this is equivalent to this, right? Declaring it and initiating it here, adding a condition and incrementing a value. So it is equivalent, right? So again, the condition that you write can be different, right? Let me give you one other example, right? So this is fine. The value of h is from 0 till 20, from 0 till equal to 20. And so some other condition similar to what we wrote here. So let's say you don't have a you don't have a specific number to end with, right? You have some condition within your loop to end, which means you want the loop to continue forever and break it only if something happens. So which means if this condition is true, only then break it. Now this condition can be a boolean condition, right? So what I can do is boolean, let's say a flag is equal to false, and this flag turns to true under some circumstances, some other business logic that is implemented here, right? So let's consider that you are fetching some value from a database, and let's say the number of data that comes, if it reaches 100, then you need to terminate the condition. So let's write integer g is equal to 1, and here I write g plus plus. And what is the condition? If this g, let's write if g is equal to 100, then flag is equal to true, and if this flag is true, then break the loop. So it can be, it can be a business logic which turns this flag true. I'm just trying to give a simplest example here. This flag would turn true under some circumstances, and based on that you want to break the loop. You don't know the condition here. You know the condition only based on this particular flag. Now this flag you can place it here also, that is also fine, right? I'm just trying to give you different permutations and combinations, right? Now if I execute, it will go till 100, and then, oh wow, if g is 100, oh, we did not display anything, right? So let's display sys out, and value of g is g. Okay, perfect, till 99, because as soon as it becomes 100, the flag is turned true and it breaks the loop, right? So under some circumstances you might have an option where you don't know how much long you want the loop to continue. Based on some condition you want to break the loop, and same thing we did here also, right? So while and for, you can use it in the same manner, right? So while and for loop, you can use it in the same manner. Now the last type of loop, which is a do while loop. So let's say integer r is equal to 0. Do, this is a bit different. Till now if you see, we did not add a semicolon in the loop anywhere, but here we have while, that is a condition, r is less than equal to 10, and here we have a semicolon. The other part is still the same, sys out, and value of r is, and here you write r and r plus plus. But what is the difference here? Let's see. execute 0 to 10. So how about this loop? If I make this value as, let's say, 1, and if I make this value as, let's say, 1 for H and for R. For H, let me remove this G from here. I'll just comment it. And if I execute it again, yes. So H01, R01. Now I'll make this 0. And I'll make this 0 and run it. H0, R0. Why? Because we have equal to sign in both the locations. Now I'll remove this equal to from here and save it and run it. No value for H and one row for R. The condition, the initiation is the same, the condition is the same, and the logic internal is also the same. But the only difference that you see here is, if you recall what we have for loop, it initiates the value first. See, it initiates the value first. It checks the condition and goes to the block only if the condition is true. That's the thumb rule for and while loop. But for do while loop, the rule is it will initiate, it will execute the code at least once and then check for condition. And that is why on the console, though the value of R is less than 0, that is minus 1, I mean 0, it's not also equal to. So ideally this condition is false, but still it will execute this piece of code at least once. That's the only difference between a while loop and a do while loop. The condition is checked after the first iteration happens. So at times you might have a scenario where you want the execution to happen at least once and then you want to check the condition, right? So in that case, you can use a do while loop, right? So just a quick recap, you have three different kinds of loops: for, while, and do while. And all three of them would need some conditions to break the loop. You can use a break statement to break a loop, right? You can use a break statement also to break a loop if you don't have any numeric or any other conditions. You can also use some boolean variables to break it, right? So it's something that we did here. Mm, yeah, something that we did here, boolean variables to break a loop. Similarly, you can put some variable here. So based on your needs, you can put appropriate conditions, appropriate values to increment or decrement. But a loop is basically to execute the same block of code in n number of times. It can have some values that are incrementing or decrementing, right? That's pretty much it about loops. Thank you very much.